All right, so you know how we do things here on the deep dive. You send us something that caught your eye, a book, a video, whatever, and we take a deep dive into it with you.
Yeah, exactly. We break it down, pull out the good stuff, and try to help everyone really understand what's going on?
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're taking a look at a YouTube video you sent our way. This one is called El Sendero de la Iniciación Parte 8. It's by Marcelo Martorelli.
From the Más Allá del Pensamiento channel.
That's right. And this video is all about human evolution, but with a twist. It connects evolution to these ideas of physical freedom and even something called magic.
Yeah, and right off the bat, the video points to these ancient Egyptian mystery schools, especially this school of Isis, as a way to understand these concepts.
Okay, so we've got ancient Egypt, mystery schools, human evolution, freedom, magic. This could be good.
Definitely buckle up.
So right at the beginning of the video, Martorelli starts talking about this analogy of an ancient Egyptian temple. And it's not just any temple. It's like this symbolic representation of creation itself.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And he talks about these two columns, right? Like really prominent pillars in this temple. And they're not just there for decoration.
Right. The video says the left column represents the power of sexuality specifically tied to procreation and the continuation of life.
And the right column, money, the power of money.
Exactly. So we've got sexuality on one side and money on the other, and they're both being presented as these fundamental creative energies.
And I think that's a really important point to highlight. They're not just basic human drives,
Yeah, the video is saying there's something deeper going on here. These are forces that actually shape our reality.
Think about it. One is literally responsible for creating new life, passing on our genes. The other, money, well, it lets us build things, make art travel, basically engage with the world around us.
And then he talks about how these two columns support this horizontal beam called a dintel or lintel. And that represents art and science in all their forms.
Right. So it's like all of humanity's creative output, our achievements, our knowledge, it's all resting on these two pillars of sexuality and money.
Yeah. And the video emphasizes how interconnected everything is. If one of those columns is weak or unbalanced, the whole structure becomes unstable.
Exactly. The stability, the dintel, all of our accomplishments, it depends on the balance and strength of those two foundational columns.
Which brings us to this really interesting part where the video describes how teachers in these ancient mystery schools supposedly assessed someone's level of evolution.
Oh, yeah. This was fascinating. They didn't give them tests or anything like that.
Nope. Instead, they would ask just two really pointed questions.
The first one was all about how the person viewed and treated their sexuality.
Was it marked by possessiveness and control? Or was there a sense of freedom and naturalness?
Right. And the second question was basically the same, but focused on their relationship with money.
Again, was it possessiveness versus freedom? It's wild that these personal aspects of life were seen as such important indicators of someone's spiritual development.
I know, right? It's like they believe that how we handle these powerful energies, sexuality and money, reveals something deep about our inner state.
So after laying out this foundation, the video moves on to this idea that both of these columns, sexuality and money, need to undergo a transformation, a kind of evolution towards a deeper understanding.
Yeah, and at this point in the video, you can almost feel the disciple thinking the same thing we are because he asks the master, how? How does this evolution actually happen?
And the master's answer is this really poetic line. He says, through the magic of consciousness that underlies life.
Which is kind of vague, but also super intriguing, right? It hints at this hidden potential within our own awareness.
Like maybe we have more power to shape our reality than we realize.
And that power is directly tied to our level of consciousness.
Exactly. Now, from there, the video outlines what it calls the first initiation on this path of evolution. And this initiation is all about achieving freedom.
Physical freedom.
Right. Physical freedom in every sense. It's like a foundational step before you can even begin to explore the more esoteric stuff.
Makes sense. You need to have a certain level of autonomy over your physical body and your actions before you can delve into the deeper aspects of self-transformation.
And once you've attained that basic level of freedom, the video introduces the second initiation, magic sexual.
Whoa, hold on. Magic, like pulling rabbits out of hats magic.
Not exactly. The video defines magic sexual as the conscious and deliberate use of sexual energy to achieve a higher evolutionary level.
Okay, that's a little different from what I was picturing.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical reinterpretation of how we usually think about sexuality.
So it's not about suppressing or denying sexual energy, but rather harnessing it, transforming it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the power of that energy and using it for something more than just physical pleasure or procreation.
It sounds intense, though. Like, this isn't something you just do overnight.
Definitely not. The video emphasizes how challenging this process of sublimation is. It requires serious inner work and a lot of conscious effort.
But that difficulty, the video suggests, is what makes it so potentially transformative. It's like you're taking one of the most powerful forces in human experience and redirecting it towards higher goals.
It's like taking the raw energy of fire and using it to power a spaceship.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So to really understand this whole magic sexual thing, the video then dives into the difference between instinct and consciousness.
Right, because our instincts are largely unconscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the video explains how our instinctive behaviors are basically inherited from the animal kingdom.
They're primarily about survival, fight or flight reproduction.
And those instincts are tightly linked to our unconscious mind. We're not really aware of them driving us.
But here's the interesting part. The video acknowledges that there can be a sense of liberation when we're completely immersed in instinct.
Like letting go of all inhibitions and just acting on impulse.
But it argues that true freedom doesn't come from being an instinct, but rather from becoming conscious of it.
Yeah, there's a difference between being swept away by a current and learning to swim.
Exactly. And the video makes this clear equation. Instinctive equals unconscious.
And it emphasizes that consciousness is what separates us from the animal kingdom. It's our ability to be aware of our thoughts and actions to make choices.
Wow, so we're not just slaves to our instincts. We have the potential to transcend them.
That's what the video is suggesting. And this is where the path of magic supposedly begins, with the gradual refinement of our instincts through conscious awareness.
It's about observing those urges without judgment and starting to understand how they influence us.
So we have a choice. We can either remain trapped in our instinctive patterns, or we can tap into this magic that emerges through consciousness.
And the video gives us these handy little formulas to remember this. Instinctive equals unconsciousness. Magic equals consciousness.
Like a cheat sheet for evolution.
I love it. And this brings us back full circle to magic sexual.
Right. So essentially it's about bringing that conscious awareness into our experience of sexuality.
Transforming it from something ordinary into something extraordinary.
Yeah. And the video really stresses the importance of self-observation in this process.
Not just observing the act of sex itself, but our whole relationship to it.
The thoughts, the emotions, the motivations behind it all.
And the video gets a little controversial here because it claims that societal and religious paradigms have actually blocked this kind of deep self-exploration when it comes to sexuality.
Yeah, it suggests that these external structures have often made it really difficult for us to honestly examine our own sexual energy.
Wow, so there's this whole other layer to it.
All right, so to sum it all up, we've explored this fascinating temple analogy where the columns of sexuality and money represent these fundamental creative energies.
And how our relationship with those energies is seen as an indicator of our level of evolution.
We then dove into the concept of magic sexual as a path of transformation and discussed the crucial distinction between instinct and consciousness.
And throughout it all, the video emphasizes the power of conscious awareness to shape our reality.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. How much attention are you paying to your own relationship with these creative energies in your life?
Those columns of sexuality and money.
And if you start bringing more awareness to those areas, how might that change your understanding of your own potential for evolution and maybe even magic?
Food for thought, right?
Definitely. So that's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.